with the environment warming up and global warming, our harvest is getting earlier and earlier. So for us, that idea of let's take the whole month of August off and go on holiday is something of the past now. So our harvest day, as I said, was 24th of August, and it is getting earlier and earlier. So we really, from the 1st of August, rather than being on holiday, we should be prepping and getting ready and organising the winery. So yeah, for us, definitely, it's not the month off. I think it is for everybody else around here in the south of France. But yeah, there was a mass exodus of people probably from more northern France down to the south still this year. So
yeah. And just to give you an idea, because I remember Sam Plunkett told me once about the different, like, since he became a winemaker many years ago, like when harvest started versus when it starts now. Like, when did it used to start? You know, when you started out?
Yeah, well, again, Jean-Marc's dad, Roger, he was a vigneron. Well, he still is a vigneron. He's retired now, but he kept a log when they used to harvest, and they used to sometimes harvest in October, sort of start in October, and harvest at about 13% alcohol. If we waited till October, we'd be at about 20% alcohol, I think now. So there's definitely been an effect. Yeah, a couple of months earlier. Just in a couple of generations.
That is nuts. Wow.
Yeah.
Great, and we're live on Facebook as well, so we'll kick off properly there. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Zoom watchers. Welcome to Facebook watchers. I'm Eamon, the wine guy. This is our second installment of our Thursday night of Virtually Naked. I'm delighted to be joined by Katie Jones, who lots of you hopefully will know, and Emma Kershaw, who most of you will not know. But we're really happy to be with Emma tonight. And tonight we're going to get a little bit of flavor of something most of us will probably be missing in our lives, which is going somewhere nice on holidays, like the south of France. And Emma got in touch with me via, Katie a few months back, explaining, where her business was at down in the Languedoc. And we thought, hey, we're running some tastings in September with our customers. What a great chance to bring a bit of the flavor of the south of France into everyone's homes watching tonight. So I've been busy all afternoon preparing, cooking my Catalan meatballs. Hopefully angels have received some recipes or been told, hopefully you've got some cheeses out or anything like that. And if you've got a bottle of Katie Jones's wines, you'd be joining me. I highly recommend them. But wherever you are, whatever you're drinking, let us know in the comments. And we're gonna just dive into somewhere quite nicer than where I am right now for the next hour. So Katie, why don't you start by introducing Emma to us, because I believe you're friends going back a few years.
We are, yeah. I think Emma was probably one of the first persons that came to visit my winery when I first started out making wine. I started in 2009. I think it was just a couple of years later, I got this lovely surprise visit from Emma, and such an exuberant, lovely, happy person. And I remember it was like, okay, taste the wines, what do you think? And she was just starting out, I think, Emma, on your wine school. So it's right at the beginning of your wine school, and you were looking for some wines. And Emma took some of my wines and presented them to her customers. And then further to that, after that, we've actually done a couple of events together as well. So Emma just has a real gift for matching food with wine. And you may think, well, it doesn't really matter, I can just drink anything, I'll just grab what's easiest to open or what's on the wine rack. But in actual fact, it does make a real difference. And Emma just has that real art and talent of picking something out in the food that it goes with the wine and really sort of makes the wine taste better, makes the food taste better too. And Emma's done a couple of events for me down here in Tuchon, and she's really brought my wines alive. And then she told me that she'd actually done a recipe book as well, and I was like, wow, recipe book, and it's an absolutely fabulous recipe book. And hence, I just thought this would be a fantastic opportunity just to show people a couple of different recipes that go with my wines and really enhance my wines, because I'm a terrible cook, even though I've got the apron on that my mum sent me.
You look the part.
I look the part, as always, but yeah, it's not my forte, I'm afraid.
And so Emma, tell us where are you from and how did you end up in Couscous?
Sure. I'm originally from the UK. I was born in Buckinghamshire, but I haven't lived there for a very long time. I spent time traveling a bit around the world. I lived in Paris, I've lived in Dubai, in Canada, London. And the Languedoc-Roussillon was always an absolute favorite place for me. I taught all of the WSET qualifications, so the Wine and Spirits Education Trust qualifications. And in fact, I taught at Plumpton University, which is the wine university in just outside of Brighton. It's a big wine university. And I used to come to this region a lot and always fell in love with it. The people, the wines, the whole landscape. And in 2008, my husband and I moved out here permanently. And I started off, I'd been headhunted, and so I helped set up a wine school closer to Carcassonne area. But I always wanted to have my own place. So we've searched and searched and searched and found the perfect place. It was an absolute falling down tip of a house in the Corbière. So I'm in a tiny village called Couscous, and I'm about half an hour from Katie. I'm just a bit sort of northeast from Katie and Touchon. So in the Corbière, very beautiful area. And yes, so we spent many years lovingly redoing our place. It now has a wine and food school. My husband's a cabinet maker joiner, so the two together. So yeah, and this is I always wanted to be here because this is a place that has such an amazing diversity of food, people, wine. It's great. So it's exciting, and so few people don't know about it. So that's the wonderful thing. You've got a great big audience out there to explore all these wonderful wines with.
Yeah,
how did you meet Katie?
Sorry, I didn't hear it.
How did you meet Katie?
How to make it? Well, when I was working at Vinicoch, which is a wine school just outside of the Carcassonne area, my colleague and I had bought her first vintage in 2009. We knew of Katie. We knew her from when she was working at Montoche, and so we were interested to try that. So that's when I very first tasted those wines. And then when I set up on my own the following year, I wanted to make sure that I came and tasted and met her and so on. And so I gave her a call. I'd been down in Banyuls, which is right down in the south near Spain, and I was coming back up with my husband, and we pulled over and met her, and she doesn't let me forget this. She just started out her winery. It was very, very crude at the time, and I've been traveling for ages, and I needed to go to the loo, and she had no loo. I had to go pee in the vines.
That was my first memory
every time. It's really unelegant. Now she has a toilet. You have toilets now, don't you?
I have two, actually, yes.
So if you come and visit Katie, you don't have to pee in the vines like I did.
No.
Power of angel funding, it's just something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Rustic. But I like the wine. I always liked the wines. I liked the story. I like the fact that she went from being behind the desk, the marketing person, to actually putting herself out there and making wines. And that's a really hard transition to do in this industry. People tend to be not necessarily the most generous with the thoughts when you do that transition. They're much more critical if you've been the sort of pen pusher and then ended up in the winery. So I thought that was really brave, and I liked that, and I liked the fact that she's doing something quite different. And so yeah, I've been using Katie's wines really ever since. And what I like about them is the great diversity that she has, and it's a lot, and it allows me to do my job easily. Great wines and great food wines, which is fun, and with a good story. And her story with you guys, of course, is fantastic, and I've been able to tell that to lots of people, and it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. So speaking of great wines and different wines, we start here with me and Mr. Jones Blanc, and a masterclass with Katie Jones. Talk us through this wine, Katie.
Okay, I do a speed masterclass on the me and Mr. Jones Blanc. So when I'm tasting wines, I just take it very easily. Just have a little sniff first. Already smells really nice, actually. And then I give it a real swirl just to get the air into it and just knock it around the glass. If you have problems doing that, just don't look at the glass, or you can even put it on a table to steady it. That helps. And then go back in and take a real inhale of the wine. And it should have really opened up. And I just keep it really simple. And I just say, if you can just pick out 4 things, so fruit, floral, spice, and herbs. And that's it. Okay. Just concentrate. Don't even think of the particular type of fruit or flower. Just think, is it more fruit, floral, spice, or herbs? And on this one, I did have a sneaky taste of it earlier. I've actually got mine at room temperature because I forgot to put it in the fridge. But because of that, you get really full on aromas from it. And I'm definitely getting like the floral side. For me, it's almost like sitting in an English garden in the summer with all those lovely flowers. I got honeysuckle definitely on it. And some white sort of blossom, white flowers. And then a hint of, well, we've got the honey, but there's a hint of sweetness on it. And that's from the special secret ingredient in here. And that's the muscat grape. And the muscat is lovely, very aromatic. And it almost brings a smell of roses to the wine too. So you could imagine walking through a rose garden. You can almost picture like the pink petals. Lovely. And Turkish delight as well. Sometimes my dad, if you're watching in Ashby-de-la-Zouch, he loves Turkish delight, and this always the muscat hint of that always makes me think of Turkish delight. And then have a taste, and just one bit of advice would be just wait, taste, swallow, and then just wait and think about it. Don't rush in and try and think, what is it, what can I taste? Just taste it and just see, but wait a couple of seconds. So initially I got the lovely fruit flavors and the flowers, the floral side, which fills the mouth. And then to finish, you have a lovely citrusy, it's almost like grapefruit or lemon to the end of it, which really lifts the wine and keeps it lovely and fresh and makes it an ideal food wine as well.
What a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. That was indeed a masterclass. I really enjoyed that. And so, Emma, what would you say? So, we'll get into your Maison de Rire in a minute, but when you're matching food with wine, like what do you generally look out for? And then with this sort of wine, what would you say would be a great match for that?
Okay, so when you're matching wine with food, you're looking for a harmony, and you don't want anything to clash. If you don't like the wine, you don't want the food to cover the taste of the wine. And if you don't like the food, you don't want the wine to cover the taste of food. So you want them to work together. And you have to look at what is the most dominant flavor. So sometimes in a wine, it could be the fruity character, or it could be the herby, the spicy, or so on. And then you look at that. So with this one, it's got a nice acidity, that nice refreshingness, but it's also got good body to it. And along with all the things that Katie mentioned, what I also get here is what we call in this region the garrigue, which is the wild scrubland, and it's a combination of the rosemary, thyme, sage, lavender, pine, and fennel, and I get a lot of this sort of rosemary kind of character to it. And so what I prepared earlier, I have a very blue Peter here. Can you see this?
Oh, wow.
Oh, look at that.
So what I prepared earlier is fish. Now, I put a recipe in my book that's with monkfish, but it doesn't have to be monkfish. It just needs to be a firm white fish. And I got this from the market yesterday, and it's very simple. All I did was marinate it with some lemon zest and juice, a really good quality local olive oil, so one that has a lot of flavor, and rosemary, and then so I did that overnight, and then today I just very gently barbecued it, but I put it on a rosemary skewer, because we have loads and loads and loads of rosemary here, and so that's really nice to be able to do that.
Nice.
Yes. There you are. So yeah, that's it. So, and I think that works really well, because you've got the nice meatiness of the fish, the citrus sort of cuts through, but then you've got the combination of the rosemary from the wine, and then also with the dish as well. So that, for me, that worked. You know, that's the reasoning for that choice. I then also came up with a couple of other things. So we've got more and more people who are turning to be more plant-based followers, you know, meals, and so looking for things that can work. And what's interesting is when you're doing vegan alternatives, for meat, that's fine, but some fish can actually be one of the hardest things to get right, to get that same sort of tangy character. And so one of the things we eat a lot of here, and we absolutely love them, I have a little boy who absolutely adores these things, and they're called Accra. They're little fish balls done with salt cod, but obviously being vegan, it's not with salt cod. So to replicate that lovely sort of tangy character, what I've done is used potatoes that I've cooked in a seaweed stock, and used samphire, you know, the seagrass that you get, and it has that exact sort of lovely tangy, salty, fishy but not fishy character, if you know. So there's a nice richness to it. And then lastly, there's some cheese, because I thought if somebody can't be bothered to cook, too busy, no. So cheeses, there's millions and millions of different cheeses, and actually white wines partner really, really well with cheese, and particularly wines like this that have that nice round character to them. And well, in this region, the cheese that we have a lot of is goat's cheese, because we're generally too hot for cow's milk cheese. And I'm very lucky to have one of the region's best goat's cheese producer. His name is Jean-Baptiste, and he's from the farm of Carus, and there's these delicious, can you see, little goat's cheese, and they are what we call demi-sec, which means that they've been aged for about between 10 and 15 days, and they have that nice sort of tang to them, and that works again really, really, really well, this wine. So there you are.
And Emma, would you ever consider putting honey on the cheese? You know, I know in Tucson, lots of people, when they have the goat's cheese, they also put the local honey on top of it. Would that?
I wouldn't do it for that type of cheese, because it's a demi-sec. I don't think that's great. He does a really fresh one, but that's nice with. But then I think the honey for me would be too strong with your wine.
Yeah, it would overpower the wine.
With your muscat wine, I think that would be
yeah, the delicious muscat
really well. But with that, I prefer not.
Okay.
But you also asked me earlier on if I could think of some good traditional sort of English takeaways to go with your white.
Fish and chips. I was thinking fish and chips.
Yes, I did. Yeah, fish and chips. Now you have to sort of hold the vinegar. Okay, vinegar is not a wine's best friend, so don't throw the malt vinegar. But actually, funny enough, one of the best matches of fish and chips is actually, quite ironically, one of the most expensive wines. It's vintage champagne, because it has a biscuity richness to it, and this has that slight sort of rich biscuity character to it. So that's really well.
Fantastic.
It also has a chicken korma, that nice sort of coconut creamy character to it, and with a Thai red curry rather than a green curry, because it's not quite so zingy as a Sauvignon style. So a red curry worked better. Yeah.
I'm so hungry.
We tried it tonight with a fish pie. Worked really nice.
Yeah.
I had hoped this session would satisfy a craving of mine, just to get down to the south of France, but all it's done is made me want to get down to the south of France, and that's not possible at the moment. So I'm just going to have to make an effort at the weekend and get that Asian ghost cheese and monkfish skewers on rosemary, and yeah, that's unbelievable. So Emma, tell us about Maison de Rire then, and tell us about your business down there.
Okay, so as I briefly mentioned, I've been teaching about wine to one of the highest levels of wine qualifications for over 20 years. But I set up my business in 2011. We bought this property at the end of 2010, and it was a real estate, so we had to make it work. And so that's one of the reasons for the name. The name is La Maison de Rire, so the house of laughter, because I smile and laugh a lot, but also if you've seen the state of this house, our plans and our budget, you had to laugh. But
2008 as well, like a great time to start a new business, I'm sure.
But also, you know, I when I started off in the wine industry, there were very few females, very few young females, and I was a young female starting off in a very male-dominated region and industry, and I really wanted to make it fun. And I think that wine, whilst it can be very serious, is actually a good fun thing. And when you meet most people who work in the wine industry, the winemakers, like people like Katie, they're a lot of fun. And so that's my idea, was to do a wine school where people could ask any questions. They don't feel intimidated. It's a nice and fun thing. And everything I do is with food, because whether I'm working with the professionals or the winemakers, or if I'm working with amateurs, because I really seriously believe that you understand wine so much better with a glass in one hand and a plate in the other. It just makes everything much more. It puts everything in its place. And when I do my tastings, I show people around the whole region. And often people taste a wine on its own and they might struggle with it. It might be too acidic, might be too mineral. But once they have it with the food that I prepared to go with it, it will make sense. Even if it's not their favorite, it makes sense and they understand it. And that's the idea. So that's what I do: wine and food, of all tastings from the wines of the region, and so on.
And so then, you know, come March then, and you know, COVID joined all of our lives. What happened? How did it impact you?
Well, it had a devastating effect on my business. My core business is to do tastings. As Katie mentioned, and you mentioned, I have a book which I wrote, and so I sell that. This is my book. It's called A Taste of the Sud, The Taste of the South, and everyone's got a copy. But doing tastings and doing events and training courses for the industry and stuff is my key business. And I had a really fantastic start to the year, and bearing in mind that it's taken me many years to build up a business, because we moved out here, foreign, set ourselves up, rebuilding a house. I also have a child, so I have a little boy, 8 years old, and so all of that, you know, and I got to this wonderful place in my business. It's working really, really well, and then suddenly everything was cancelled. Absolutely everything. And it was unfortunately cancelled rather than postponed, because nobody knew when they would be able to come out. It was all very complicated, and so it had an absolutely devastating effect. And I try to do tastings online. So I've been doing some on Instagram, but you know, just to get people to think about this wonderful region and think about when they go to buy wines, they go to Naked, they go to the Languedoc section rather than anywhere else. But it's been hard, and whilst I've done some tastings this summer, it's been more like 2 a month rather than 4 a week. So as you can imagine, that's sort of hard going, very, very hard going. So, and we just don't know where the end of this is. So yeah.
What would a typical day or a tasting be like at the school?
Okay, so sometimes I go to people and sometimes people come to me. It depends on, generally I find in the summertime, tourists don't like to move. So I go to them. Otherwise people come to me. And I literally had a very international clientele. I counted the 6 months from September to February before the COVID hit. I had 15 different nationalities come to this tiny village of Castouge. From across the world, you know, so really everything. You think about it, South American, North American, so Canadian, we had different Europeans, obviously French as well, but because I teach in both languages. I had New Zealanders, Australians, South Africans, Chinese. I had a whole coach full of Chinese with translator, because my Chinese is a bit limited. Ni hao. And so what it would happen is that I would prepare an 8-course tasting menu. So a tasting with me is either over lunch or over dinner, and it lasts a good 3 hours depending on how chatty people are. And I would introduce them to the region, the wine region. I teach them how to taste like a professional, and then how to taste wines with food. And then we would taste wines from across the region, and for each wine there would be at least one dish that I would have prepared to perfectly match that wine. And I always use local, seasonal food, and so it's all prepared with me. So it's a real discovery. So it's a gastronomic as well as a wine discovery, which is a lot of fun.
Well, I'm sure Katie would attest to the number of British folk, but also naked angels passing through the region during normal times. So hopefully, when things get back to normal, people will definitely pop in for sure. What would be the best way that you're one of our own, and what would be the best way that we could help you out through all this?
Well, I guess right now the key thing is if everybody would like a copy of my book, if you wanted to buy a copy of the book talks about the wine region, its past, its present, and its future. It teaches you in a nice, accessible way how to match wines with food, and then it's a selection of recipes with wine pairings. And so if everybody, with Naked, we're doing a special offer, so we're offering 10% off. If you go onto my website, which is www.lamaisonderire.com, and you go to the shop, you put in a voucher, the Naked Tour 10, you get a discount on the book. So that's an immediate thing. That means something is being bought, something I can send straight away. And then of course, if people would like to come and visit, and I can showcase the wines of Naked, or Katie's wines, Jen, who you're going to see later on, and teach you about the region. We can go to Katie's winery and meet her and see what's happening and match her wines with food.
We could even sit in a vineyard and perhaps have a couple of dishes with the wines and one of the vineyards. Fantastic, absolutely. With some angels.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of things we could do. Also, if people want to learn about wines in a more depth way, I can do Zoom tastings, and I'm actually doing one with in America with a group there using Naked Americans. So people want that, they can get into contact. But for now, buying the book is probably the best way to help me out.
Well, you very kindly sent me a copy, and I can say that having made the meatballs with my kids and wife earlier in the afternoon and tasted them just in the 5-minute break between sessions, that's worth the price alone. But I believe we're going to find out the definitive answer to that in a little while, Katie, with your extended family down in the cellar. So I can't wait for that.
Yes.
I've cooked for your husband, but your mother-in-law isn't there, is she?
No, she's not. But she's never far away. So, and Mr. Jones is just waiting. I can almost hear him trying to get his hands on your meatballs. So, he's waiting for it.
Excellent.
To get a real Frenchman. It's the tasting judgment, a real Frenchman, and I think the team are there as well, our small harvest team, and they're all waiting to taste your meatballs.
I'd imagine they're pretty hungry right now.
Exactly.
They are. It's been a long day. It's been a very long day.
So Katie,
sorry, I just say one of the things about the recipes is that they're all very sort of adaptable and also very, very easy, because when I'm doing a proper season, I'm very busy, and so everything is supposed to be done so anyone can follow it.
Definitely. So Katie, you said you're in the middle of harvest right now. What's a typical day in the life for a winemaker at this time of year?
There's nothing typical about it, as usual, but it's busy. It's probably up at about 5:30, 6 just to get organised and get ready, and then we have a team of about 10 pickers. So everything at Domaine Jones is hand-picked, and Jean-Marc has a harvesting machine. But if we're hand-picking, so we get the pickers out into the vineyard, and they'll be picking probably about 100 cases in the morning. They're then brought into the winery. Michelle brings them on the tractor into the winery, and we then process them. Processing is basically getting the grapes into the vat without the stalks, or into the press if you're making a white wine, or a bit in between if you're doing an orange wine.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Cool. So it's basically processing the grapes, getting the grapes from the vineyard into the vat is basically all it is, but it takes a couple of machines, a destalking machine, a sorting table. And in my winery at the station, we're about 3 people to do that. So we'll do that. And then once the wine is in vat and it starts fermenting, you're daily checking the densities to see how the sugar is fermenting and how they're getting along, just looking after them, basically, making sure they're not going to stop fermenting and encouraging them along to finish. And then on the reds, we just have one. I have one vat of red that's come in so far, the Syrah. So that will go into Lagar Syrah. And now on that, we're doing twice daily rack and returns. So a rack and return is you rack off all of the juice into another vat, and then the return is you pump it back into the vat with the skins. And in that way, you just get a nice gentle mixing up of the skins with the juice. So the winery smells heavenly. It's an absolute bliss and pleasure to go into that winery every single day just to get all the different aromas that are in there at the moment. Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that sounds great. And how are your friends, the boars, Katie?
Don't talk to me about the wild boars. I just we just have this hate sort of relationship, because we did everything to nicely keep them out of our vineyards. The wild boar down here are the biggest pest in the area for grapes, and wild boar are really, really greedy, and there seem to be more and more wild boar every single year. So we already put electric fences around some of our most sensitive vineyards, and the most sensitive are like the Muscat, the ones that are really juicy and really aromatic. And now we have a permanent fence as well as the electric fence, and they sort of ramrod it. So they work in herds, and I think they send the one, perhaps not the brightest wild boar in first. So he gets the shock on the electric fence, and then the whole herd like charges in afterwards. And so even though we've put up all of these fences, we still brought in some Syrah from one little vineyard yesterday, and they've literally just hoovered it off. Well, I don't know how they got into the vineyard, but you just see the stalks, and there's just stalks basically. There's no grapes on there at all. So but perhaps on a brighter note, there is a hunting club in Touchon, a wild boar hunting club. Well, I had another idea, which is perhaps a little better idea, was perhaps Emma could create an amazing wild boar recipe that makes the whole world want to have wild boar. And,
I did on Instagram. I did your fitu, Lagar fitu.
Fantastic.
And I partnered it with a wild boar stew. It was bloody marvellous.
Katie will happily... Katie will supply the ingredients happily.
I will, and if you can just specify, it has to be from Touchon, the wild boar.
Not from Castouche.
No.
They taste great on eating all those Domaine Jones Syrah grapes. Okay. You know, the flavour from that meat is,
Absolutely, it's been macerated.
And you've piqued a few people's interest around this orange wine, Katie. I think we're hearing about it in the press, and it seems to be one of these trends, or a lot of people it seems to be quite in vogue. What is an orange wine, and how are you going about it?
I was a bit skeptical. Would you like to see my orange wine? It might put you off.
Would like to see your orange wine. Whoa, that is orange.
Whoa. So basically it's a white wine where you leave the skins in the juice I left them in for 5 days. So in actual fact, you get the color, so a bit of orange, and you get the tannins from the skin. So it's like a full-bodied white wine. I'm a novice, must say, about orange wine. I was asked, I did my rambles in the vineyard, and lots of people were going, "Are you going to make an orange wine?" And I was like, I didn't even know what it was. So I had a quick look, and we've made, I think, 300 litres, which is minute, just to try it out from our Macabre. And I had this sort of notion that all orange wines actually don't smell of oranges, they smell of apples. And so I thought that it was all going to smell of apples and just be more like scrumpy or cider. But in actual fact, this Macabre, must say, actually smells delicious. So it's finished fermenting. It just needs to settle a little bit. As the sediment drops down, it will hopefully become a lovely sort of orange colour, and I would imagine that Emma would have an absolute field day matching an orange wine with food.
Well, I'm a great fan when they're done well, and it's a very ancient system. It's what they used to make in the Greek times, and in fact, it's basically making a white wine in the same way you would a red wine at warm temperatures. And what makes it very interesting to match it is because you don't serve it cold like you would a white wine. You tend to serve it sort of around the 13 degrees,
Okay.
and you want it. You also want to decant it, and so it does depend. And I can't wait to try yours, but
yeah, I think you need to try it before you.
But often you would match an orange wine with the similar sort of foods as you would match a Fino sherry. So difficult foods, things like almonds, sometimes anchovies, serrano hams, so salty hams, manchego cheese. I've also done it with roasted fish done with apricots and toasted walnuts, and it's and also really old, really strong cheeses. So quite a strong, really mature cheddar or something like that. Be really, really good with it. So they're fun. They're real foodie wines.
Eamon, do you think I could just walk into the winery now?
Yeah, it's good.
Please do.
While you're talking, sorry, I meant while you're still talking,
sure.
if I just try and amble into the winery and see what Mr. Jones, he's probably eaten all of the meatballs before I get there.
We've got to try your red, haven't we?
In case we'll quickly just try your red as well, because I think a few people will have their reds open and hoping to, go even close to the white masterclass. I don't know if that's even possible, but
okay.
I got mine here.
Do you want me to talk about it while I'm walking?
If you can, go for it.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I could I'll probably sit down first. So, the red is lovely. We're going to do exactly the same thing again. So just take a little sniff from the glass, get some air in. I say it's really dark here. Swirl around. Oh, it's warm out here. It must be about 25 degrees. Swirl around and then take another inhale the flavors. And it's mainly Grenache, so you've got 80% Grenache. Whoa, here we go. So we've got 80% Grenache in the wine. It gives it a lovely soft body. And here I would really pick up on what Emma said about the garrigue and the garrigue, the herbs. But you've got dark fruit in there, probably cherries I pick up on quite often. Cherries, blackberries perhaps as well, but definitely the rosemary and the thyme from the Grenache, and then there's just a little hint of Syrah there too. But the general feeling is it's just lovely and soft, so really soft, really fruity, and just almost like a comfort wine when you just want that nice glass of wine in the evening, nothing too serious or nothing too difficult. It's perfect. It's warming. It's a nice autumn or end of summer style of wine.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and I quite like it. But if you do have it in the summer, I quite like serving this, not cold, but a little bit chilled, so sort of around 15. I think it's worth noting that room temperature sort of dates back to the Victorian days. It's certainly not what the inside temperature in our houses out here in the south of France is in the summertime. It's 25, 28 degrees. So it's worth putting things a little bit in the fridge. It shouldn't be cold, but just to take the edge off, and that brings out that nice freshness. I think that's really lovely.
So Emma, how long would you put a wine like this in the fridge for then, or red wine?
I think you could, in the height of summer, I would put it in for a good 40 minutes and then take it out 5-10 minutes before you're using it. Right, tonight we're not as warm. We're sort of in the mid-20s right now, and so I just put it in about 10 minutes before I was going to taste it, because it just brings it down and brings out that lovely freshness, all that vibrancy of the fruit, which I think is really nice. And so I show you some food.
What did you pick for a food match for this sort of wine?
We will be talking about it, what Jean-Marc's going to taste. So these are the meatballs, and they're called bolos de picula. It's a Catalan dish, okay, and we're just really on the cusp of Catalan area where Katie is. The Roussillon is very much Catalan area. It left Catalonia in 1659, but it still has those strong ties in both its landscape, its food, its wines, and so on. And so these are a mix of beef and pork and veal, and it's done in a lovely rich tomato sauce with sep. What is sep in English? Porcini, you probably know them better.
Mushrooms.
Yeah, porcini. Yeah, wild mushrooms or porcini mushrooms. It's done with olives and a ham, and it's got lots of paprika in it, and the piment d'Espelette, which is the chili that has a lot of flavor to it. It has a spice, but it's not super hot. It's not like a lot of the chilies that you get from like Thai food or Indian food. This is more flavorsome. And then a little bit of cinnamon. So it's got an interesting flavors. And then all that lovely rosemary and thyme, those herbs in it. So it's got quite a lot going on, but it's the kind of dish that you don't want to have lots of oak in it. And so this wine doesn't. So that works really well for that. Well, I think so.
And why did you say that about the oak?
Sorry?
Why did you say that about the oak?
Because
why would that be a mismatch?
If you've got a bit of spice, and here we've got both cinnamon spice and chili spice in it, that can often clash with oak, and it can make it taste bitter. And also, if your wine is quite a big alcoholic wine, again, the chili will make that all too hot and you'll get this real sort of alcohol burn. So it's actually really good to have something that's really good on the fruit, has that acidity, but you're not sort of clashing with those flavors.
Very good.
And then
do
you want to go? Should I pass over to you, because I've also got the vegetarian option, if you like, but we can do that after. Okay, did you want to?
Oh, sorry, I was just.
No, I didn't know whether.
Can I have a glass of wine, please? What would you like me to do? Did you want to do the?
Shall I talk about the vegetarian? Or do you want to talk about
finish off the vegetarian option, please, Emma. Yeah.
I'll get my husband under control, perhaps.
We haven't got time for that. So what we've got here is beetroot galettes. Is beetroot potato galettes. So basically, we take a beetroot. If you've got the time, if you've got you charcoal cook them and then grate them up with potato, and then you and some cheese and lots of that garlic herbs, and then just pan fry them, and they're crunchy, and they've got that lovely sort of umami character of beetroot, because beetroot is really, really delicious. It's a really good food with wine, and in many different ways, and that slightly sort of charcoal character works really well with the red wine. And I did have some cheese, but they ate the cheese here. I'm sorry.
We'll allow that.
I'll show you the cheese.
So Katie, the big taste off.
Is this it? Okay. I just get everything. Tu pourras servir. Right. Okay. I just turn around here. So I found my husband, Monsieur Jones.
Hey, Jean-Marc.
Salut. Je vous vois pas, ouais.
Oui, ça va.
So, me and Monsieur Jones
Hey.
here. And Cecile's just going to serve out a boule de picolate here, one of the Catalan meatballs, into the dish. So this is something I made. There we go.
Nailed it.
It smells delicious. And as I say, the proof of the pudding, I don't know how you say that. And now that we've opened up the dish, I've got a few more French people. Gilles coming to join in. So the first dish, Monsieur Jones.
And Katie, what's the red in everyone's glasses?
So the red in everybody's glasses is...
Oh, very nice.
Me and Monsieur Jones.
Nah.
Right, shall we go for the reaction? Are you ready for this, Emma?
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yes, very good.
Hey.
Well done, Katie, because I didn't cook it.
And yeah, you gave me the recipe. It's in the book. It's amazing. Do you like it?
Yes,
and
really.
I have the ultimate question. Is it as good as your mother's?
It's impossible, never. You can't. No, it's very good.
And with the wine? Try the wine. Gilles, how is it?
It's honestly the best I have ever had.
Oh, did you hear that,
wow.
Emma?
He's never had it before.
Michelle comes from Tucson, lives in Tucson. How is the Emma's boule?
Bon, très bon.
Bon. Okay. So,
Excellent.
I think it's thumbs up then. Thumbs up all right. And with the wine.
Yes, at the end of the day, perfect.
At the end of the day, perfect, because they're just finishing off now. Thank you. So yeah, big thumbs up all around, I think, from
Well, I'm telling you, that meatball recipe is worth the price of that book alone. I can even my 4-year-old ate them.
Ah, yeah.
Carignan et de la Syrah.
sorry, and sorry, just this is what came in today.
Ah, yeah, Mr. Jones.
This is the Syrah,
So we've got the Syrah.
and the Carignan is just near.
So this is a Syrah that literally just came in. We harvested it today. So that's the 2020 vintage part of the Grenache Syrah. This is a Syrah part that will go into the wine for next year.
And when can we expect to drink that, Katie?
I would say March next year. That will be ready. But can we have a look at your wine, Jean-Marc? He's so busy eating his boule de picolat.
And is there going to be a difference with the vintage, Katie?
I think it's a bit early to say. I think it's going to be pretty similar. It's another good vintage. It's been great weather. So here, you are the first people here to see.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that fermenting grape juice.
Yes.
Look at the color. How long has it been in the vat?
The 4 day today.
4 days. So this has been in the vat for 4 days. You see the color already.
Wow.
What does it taste?
Yeah, it's really fruity.
Really fruity. Here, who wants it?
Ferment it for?
Combien de temps tu vas le fermenter?
Peut-être 2 jours de plus. Maybe
So
2
2 more days perhaps on the skins.
I'm not sure. We decide tomorrow.
Great sound effect.
It's delicious because it's like fermenting. It's still quite sweet, so it's just like fermenting. It's a bit like fizzy Ribena, but nicer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looking forward
Amazing.
To it. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks so much, guys. That's been an awesome 50 minutes. Emma, I can already see people have been asking for your book code and saying they've ordered it already.
Okay.
So that's great to see. Just could you tell us again how, if you know, as you're one of our own, how can we help in future? You know, either when things open up again or even sooner than that, order your book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me along and giving me this this opportunity. Absolutely, buy the book, tell everybody you know. And if you are on Instagram and Facebook, if you can follow my page, La Maison de Rire, that also helps get the word out. And then, yeah, come and visit, come book a tasting with me. And I'll take you to Kate. We're going to see Katie. We'll taste Katie's wines. We'll taste Jen's wines, who you're going to be talking to, and Benji's. And I'll show you this wonderful region. I'm very well positioned to welcome the Naked Angels here and to give them an overview of this region. And I'll be delighted to do so. So. Yeah.
Well, tonight's been an amazing glimpse, and you've whetted my appetite and everyone watching tonight. So we can't wait till things get back to normal and we can hop on a plane or drive down and see you guys, and goes for you as well, Katie. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah,
Katie, best of luck with the rest of the harvest.
Thanks very much, and thanks, Emma, and I think thanks from Monsieur Jones as well. He's still eating over there.
Cheers, guys.
Mama, but
cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.